Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 12th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Because we are on virtual WebEx here, I will begin by reading the roll call members of the Board of Selectmen. Joe Crisco is here, right, Joe? Yeah, I think you're muted, Joe. Beth Heller is here. Paul Kyriakos.
Here.
David Lober.
Here.
Sheila McCrevin.
Here.
And David Vogel.
Here.
Thank you. Administrative Officer, Director of Finance, Tony Genovese.
Here.
Assistant Administrative Officer, Betsy Yagla.
Here.
Town Council, Jerry Weiner.
Here.
Mrs. Shaw is not here this evening, and Media Specialist Paul Ford is here. Thank you. And with that, we will move on to item 1 on the agenda, which is the first Selectmen's report. And because we have a big meeting, I'm going to be very brief this evening. As you're currently aware, the Connecticut daily positivity rate has soared into the mid-20s, so close to 21 today, which is a little better. In order to protect all Woodbridge residents and others who work, visit, shop, and enjoy many of our activities in town, I signed an emergency order requiring everyone to wear masks at all indoor establishments, workplaces, and public meeting spaces. This became effective this past Monday, January 10th. I've received several thank yous from businesses and residents. This order will remain in place until further notice. It is the right thing to do to keep the town of Woodbridge safe. Masks, social distancing, vaccines, and tests are the simple steps we need to continue to take care of ourselves, keep ourselves and our community safe. You may read on the town website. Thank you to our Human Services Department staff, our police department members, and our all volunteer members of our fire department for organizing and staffing 2 COVID-19 at-home test kit distribution events. I was able to help with the distribution on Saturday. It was a very well organized, efficient drive-through. Instead of the 1,100 test kits we were told to expect from the state, we received 2 smaller shipments. We held 2 events to give them out, last Monday and last Saturday. Both were incredibly cold days. On Saturday, we were also able to hand out recently received N95 masks. The town also shared N95 masks with staff at Amity Regional School District, the Woodbridge School District, Ezra Academy, and local daycare centers, and also our town staff. I would urge everyone to please take advantage of the widespread availability of free vaccines and boosters, especially given the quick spread of the COVID-19 Omicron variant. You may find vaccines and tests by visiting ct.gov/coronavirus. Masks continue to be required at all times in town buildings. All town meetings remain virtual, and in-person programming has been scaled back significantly to help to continue to keep our community safe. Our ad hoc appointed 2021 housing committee is working diligently on the town's affordable housing plan. I believe they will release a Woodbridge specific survey to supplement the regional survey published by the SCROG soon. We are also planning to offer a town public hearing at some point to listen to our residents' thoughts and ideas. Hopefully, this plan will help us find ways to meet our state and federal mandated obligations regarding affordable housing. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee is also working on a survey to better understand the experiences, concerns, and priorities of residents. They plan to use the data gathered to prioritize their work. Tonight, I am appointing a new member to that committee, Ko Shui, thanks to former First Selectman Ellen Skeletar and all the members of this most important committee for all their efforts. As a reminder, the Board of Selectmen recently voted unanimously that beginning on February 1st, a new fee system for bulk trash will begin. Please remember that bulk trash is defined as large items such as furniture and construction demolition. The town's transfer station has a scale which is still being used for charge haulers bringing in residential trash. Also, on February 1st, the scale will be used for residents and contractors bringing in bulk trash items. That will be 10 cents per pound. As a reminder, cash is not accepted at the transfer station. This modified fee is one way for the town to prepare for a difficult fiscal future by shifting the cost of the service to those who use it rather than have all residents subsidize it. Currently, the town charges $20 per cubic yard, but the town is charged by the ton to dispose of trash. In fiscal year 2021, the town collected $4,511 in bulk trash fees, but paid out $69,490 to haul and dispose of bulk trash. The new fee will help to offset the town's costs. Additionally, the town will continue to offer bulk trash pickup 5 months a year by appointment, but with a fee. Beginning on February 1st, there will be a $50 per appointment fee. That fee will partially cover the town's cost to run this program, including staff time and disposal costs. This evening, we will learn more about a program the state is promoting called quote unquote pay as you throw. This is another way for us to reduce trash related expenses and also hopefully reduce the amount of trash generated in our town. We have many important items on our agenda this evening, so in the interest of time, I will stop here. Welcome you all to the new year, and let's all keep safe. Thank you. Moving on to item 2, we have Woodford Board of Education Superintendent, Dr. Jonathan Budd. And I just see he's here. Good evening, Dr. Budd.
Hi, everybody. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. I can't see myself, so I trust you're seeing my best view.
You have a halo behind you, a big bright light. It looks kind of.
Oh, sorry. That's my light. Yes. All right.
Okay. No worries at all. We can see you fine, though. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your time on what I see as a lengthy interview, but I'd like to focus my attention this evening on 2 important yet rather different topics. One, the status of the COVID-19 pandemic here at Beach, and 2, the status of our current operating and our proposed operating budget for next year. Starting with the status of the COVID-19 pandemic here at Beecher, I'll give a more thorough report on this at next Tuesday night's Board of Education meeting. But to give you a general sense, we, like all school districts, have seen an increased number of COVID positive cases here at Beecher, both in staff and in students. The State Department of Education is not allowing local districts the flexibility to pivot to remote learning. So learning continues to be in person at Beecher, with the obvious exception of students who are at home in isolation because they have tested positive for COVID, or who are in quarantine because they're unvaccinated close contacts to people who have tested positive for COVID. We continue to engage in contact tracing when an individual has tested positive for COVID and was at Beecher when potentially contagious. We actually believe it's almost the equivalent of a moral imperative to advise our staff and student community members so they can be extra cautious of watching their symptoms. I can tell you that well over half of our students are already fully vaccinated against COVID-19, and over 99.5% of our staff. As a district, we also made a choice this fall to participate in a state program that provides free weekly COVID testing to students and families elect that option. We currently have about 130 students participating, and this free testing, which is conducted by public health personnel who visit Beecher every Wednesday afternoon, is much appreciated by the families of the students who participate. It's also very important for me to underscore what Beth mentioned already. The town blessed our staff last week by very quickly providing N95 masks. And we've also received from the State Department of Education and the Connecticut Department of Public Health supplies of test kits for both our staff and our families who need them. And anyone watching this who is a community member at Beecher who needs a kit should contact my office or our health office. All right, now turning from the status of the pandemic at Beecher to the status of our current operating budget and our proposed operating budget for next year, I want to stress that I believe we all share a common goal: continuing the town's decades-long investment in Beecher Road School and doing so in a way that is responsible, efficient, and respectful of the taxpayers. In late December, I transmitted to your attention a proposed operating budget for next year, unanimously endorsed by the Board of Education at its December meeting. Now, we continue to examine budget line items for potential efficiencies, and as a result, I will be bringing to the Board of Education at its meeting next week some potential reductions to that proposed operating budget. If the board supports my recommendation, then I will submit a revised proposed operating budget to your attention immediately, and I'll revise proposed operating budget later this month to you and the Board of Finance. One way to see my role is as an effective interpreter between the school district and the town, representing to the town the needs and priorities of the school district, and representing to the school district the obligations and capacity of the town. My strongest goal the next few months is to be the best interpreter possible. The school district and the town have worked hand in hand for decades, and that relationship is the foundation of the jewel that is Beecher Road School. No question, no concern is too small for you to bring it to my attention. My job, again, as interpreter is to listen, to understand, and to work to turn problems into solutions. On a small related note, later on your agenda tonight, Mr. Genovese will be speaking about a request from the Board of Education for an appropriation of $75,664. That represents a payment the town general fund has recently received from the Stratford Board of Education. This payment came very recently after some negotiations we engaged in for student-specific costs from last year that we justifiably billed. Because as of January 1st this year, we've incurred some unexpected costs for additional special education one-to-one teachers assistants for students who have just entered the district. These funds will be applied to that purpose and will allow us to continue our budget deficit mitigation work. And on that front, I want to end by saying that we continue to move in the right direction with our current operating budget deficit mitigation work. With half the school year behind us, we've reduced our deficit substantially, and we believe we will be able to reduce it entirely by the end of the school year, particularly with the help of the appropriation I've just mentioned. So thank you for listening, and in partnership, I want to continue to thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Anyone have any questions for Dr. Bud? Thank you. Hearing none. Okay, thank you. I
Thank
did
you.
add to the agenda whether or not the board was interested in perhaps taking a tour of the school. I know we've talked about it a couple times. I did it a couple of years ago. I'm sure nothing has, well, probably some things have improved, but some things have probably gotten a lot worse. It's up to the board. We can talk about that. If everyone is interested, maybe we could ask Mrs. Short to reach out with a possible tour date or something like that. Maybe when the weather gets a little bit better, and we can have some conversation and things like that. So
Absolutely, be happy at any time.
okay, so I'll keep that on the radar for us, and then I'll have her reach out to the board when she's back. She just needed the evening off. She has a family thing going on. So anyway, I'll make sure that she reaches out to our board members. And thank you for offering in advance a tour.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, stay safe. Thank you so much, Dr. Bud. Item 3 on the agenda is the Agricultural Commission. Sorry, I believe Chris Sorensen and Stephen Munna were going to join us, Farmer Steve. And I see they've popped in. The first one is a request to waive the TP&Z application fees regarding the farm stand regulations. I could already make a motion to approve it, and then I guess we can discuss it. If I will do that, is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sheila. Who would like to discuss this? Are Chris or Steve available? Jerry, do you know about this? I don't even know.
Yeah, there's going to be an application that's going to be filed to permit farm stands in Woodbridge to carry produce and products manufactured or grown outside of Woodbridge. Right now, we have a zoning regulation that says farm stands can only sell items that they grow or manufacture in town. So this is a request to waive whatever fee it is to file that application with the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
This seems to be a very reasonable request, and I assume the board will want to have say.
Anyone have any questions on this? I think it's a great thing to do, quite frankly. Anyone have any comments? Hearing none, I will call the question and I'll read it off. I have to do this by roll call, sorry. Joe Crisco? Are you an aye? Yep, okay, thank you. Beth Heller is an aye. Paul Kurikos,
Aye.
thank you. David Lober,
Aye.
Sheila McKibben,
Aye.
and David Vogel.
I am an aye, but I do have, the only question is this was a request to waive this, not to change a regulation, isn't that right?
Correct.
You don't
Yeah.
have the authority to change the regulations, it's planning and zoning.
Yeah. They're gonna, I guess, go to P and Z, and then if they would have to normally pay a fee to do so, and we're just waiving that fee.
Got it.
Okay. And you are an aye. Okay, wonderful. Thank
Okay.
you. So item A of 3 is completed. Thanks, guys. We got the waive the fees done. And now we're at item B, which is follow up and request for mechanism to extend the length of farmland leases, and action is appropriate. And maybe one of you, either Chris or Steve, could just give a very quick update about what you're looking for. And then I know town attorney is going to weigh in on this, and then we'll go from there.
I don't know if Steve is, can you hear me, Beth?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
and Steve's here as well.
Oh, he is. Okay, I'll let Steve speak as to, because he had written a letter to, I believe, Jerry and yourself as to the need for this.
Yeah,
And
the board has that. I think it's an email or something. The board has that in their packet, I hope. I
okay,
saw it in my packet, but yeah,
okay.
I think it was January 3rd-ish.
So I
Yeah.
think, Steve, why don't you follow up and explain to Beth how the need for, if someone applies for grants or loans, or not loans, but grants and things with the state or the federal government, why you need to show that you have a 5-year accountability on the land and the productivity. Are you good with that, Steve?
Yeah, thank you.
We have Chris, we have the full board here, so it's just not me. It's all
Oh,
6 of us.
okay. I don't know. I'm not good at this. I've
I'm
only
not
done it a
alone.
few times.
I have these folks with me, so they're
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
Yeah, so the basics here are that there are a number of grant programs. In this case, and specifically something we're looking at now is a State Department of Agriculture grant, but there are also cost share funding programs through the Natural Resource Conservation Service, it's the NRCS. And in many cases, the basic eligibility requirement is that the farmer or show that they have they either own the property, or if they lease the property, that they have a 5-year lease. So lots of the sort of minimum eligibility requirement for the grants are to show that you have a 5-year lease. And that if you have that 5-year lease, you can apply for the grant. With a lot of the farmers in town who are leasing town-owned land, the leases, as you know, are 1-year leases. So the request that we made actually back in March following an Ag Commission meeting was that there be an opportunity to apply to extend those leases for farmers who held their leases for a number of years and are in good standing, so that they can make the application so they can extend their lease for 5 years and be eligible for some grants. And the reason we're here before you now is that the 1-year leases have gone out to farmers, but one of our farmers, Christina Holland at Off Center Farm, is interested in applying for a grant that's actually coming up in the next few days, and that's through the State Department of Agriculture, the Farmland Restoration Program grant. And in order for her to be eligible, she needs to show that 5-year lease. So, a request for today would be to, hopefully have action on that so that her lease can be extended. And to be clear, whatever work she is proposing to do on the farm would still, need to be approved by the town. She can't suddenly then build a structure or have carte blanche to what to do with the land. I think, we at Massaro over the years, when we've applied for similar grants, that we've still come to the town as appropriate for permission for building or permits from whatever commission is necessary. So it doesn't mean they can do whatever they want with the land over the next 5 years. They still need to come for permission for whatever practice they are trying to implement. But the basics for the application are that they have that 5-year lease. So the hope is that at least today we could see that through for off-center farms, so that they are eligible for the grant.
Beth, I think you're muted.
I'm sorry. I know Jerry Weiner had done some research on behalf of this email that we got from Steve and Chris, and I think you've spoken with Steve and Chris over the last couple of months, back and forth for a while.
Message for Chris last week, but we haven't gotten together. But Jerry Shore actually reminded me the reason why we have 1-year leases with the farmers for these properties is one is the obvious. The town, some future point in time, may have some use for the property for its own purposes. That's number one. This particular piece of property, you only know, but abuts up to land that's used by recreation. There's a soccer field up there. They have carve out in Ms. Owen's lease that gives them the right to park some cars for certain events during the year. And this was the site of the proposed 90-foot diamond, which never came to fruition. So I know that there was some interest by recreation to use the property. More important issues, other than town tying up and for 5 years, is questioning whether any lease. Some of you may know that our charter provides for any lease for a period in excess of 1 year shall be considered a sale, conveyance, purchase, or other acquisition of real property within the meaning of this section, which requires a special town meeting for approval of sale of property over a certain amount of money. And section B requires a special town meeting for the lease of any property for over 1 year. And that is primarily one of the reasons why we only gave out 1-year leases on these properties. And there is a serious question as to whether it can be done by the Board of Selectmen or needs to happen at a special town meeting. In
Sure.
addition, the obvious issue is whether the board wants to tie up property for 5 years.
So can I just ask a simple question, because maybe I don't understand. So what you're saying is, if we can't, the Board of Selectmen cannot do this, because if it's a lease, it's through the charter, correct? The town charter. Anything over a year lease is considered a sale of the
Yeah,
property?
Section 4-8 of the town charter there's 2 sections under 4-8. Section A calls for this: any sale of property, a purchase of property in excess of $50,000 or 4.15%, whichever is greater, must be considered by a special town meeting. You all know that section because that's the section that the town operates when we sell or purchase real estate. You've got to get town permission at a special town meeting. Section B of that charter provision says, and it's very short, it's one sentence: any lease for a period in excess of 1 year shall be considered a sale, conveyance, purchase, or other acquisition of real property within the meaning of this section. And this section requires special town meetings, sale of property.
We're not talking sale, Jerry. I heard you say lease, but we're talking a lease. And
No.
and I,
Section
you're
B talks about leases.
right. So you're saying that we need to have a special town meeting in order to get, I thought maybe we'd do a case by case situation if somebody came to, like we are now, and there's money on the table by the state to give out, yet we're being in a position where our hands are tied. So, for us to go for I guess, a town meeting or whatever we need to do. I guess is that the way we're going to have to go forward with something like this?
Well, when we were talking about that, I suggested maybe this can, rather than automatically give 5-year leases for all the properties that are leased to farmers, we would consider this on a case-by-case basis. And then Jerry Shaw pointed it out to me early on that there is the provision in the charter that says any lease of property for more than 1 year must be considered by the special town meeting. And it seems to equate it to a sale and takes it out of the Board of Selectmen's hands and leaves it to the voters.
Jerry,
We're
I-
bringing you one case, we're bringing you one case here, Jerry. That's why we're not asking for everyone. So it doesn't matter. Like, we're coming to you now to say Christine is looking to get a 5-year lease. How would you like us to proceed then if we, as she's gonna lose this year's time, so we can maybe, hopefully next year, the state will have money again, or maybe she'll get a federal grant. But how would you ask us to proceed? Because when you ask us to proceed, you're gonna say, well, is there any grants available? I can see that question coming. This year, there's grants available, but we don't have a lot of time. So
Can I
next year, what I'm looking to do is how do you want us to proceed in order for us to do this in a town meeting? Do you want us to say every time we bring it up that the Board of Selectmen have the opportunity to grant us permission? I mean, you can't do it every single time. We got to do something where the Board of Selectmen could step in and say, look, we got an exception here, an exception to what we're doing. How would you like us to proceed?
It's not how I would question. I don't, I'm just telling you what the charter says. The charter says for sale of properties in excess of $50,000, you have to have a special town meeting, or the purchase of properties in excess of $50,000, you have to have a special town meeting. That same provision in a subsection says any lease for a period in excess of 1 year shall be treated as a sale and must be considered at a special town meeting. There's no monetary amount in that section for leasing. So the way it is interpreted is that a lease has to be approved if it's more than a period of 1 year.
I
by a
understand.
special town meeting.
I
Can I
understand.
ask a question?
Jerry.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'd like to ask Jerry.
Yep.
And Chris, you can tell me if this would help out, if this is feasible. Could we, as the board, vote to put an addendum onto that lease for this person, saying that upon receipt of any state grant for 5 years, this lease will be automatically renewed for additional 1-year terms throughout the 5-year duration of the grant?
I mean, I think that's a start, Dave.
I don't know well, so what you're saying is that there's an order. Generally, a lease for 1 year with automatic renewals is considered more than a lease for 1 year. It is
No, under only if they get state funded. In other words, he's saying you're gonna have a yearly lease for the next 5 years under the assumption that you're getting a state grant. If you don't get a state grant, then you're not getting that except an exemption.
But why, if that's what the board wants, I mean, the other issue is, does the Board of Selectmen want to give 5-year leases for these properties? That's the first question. The second question is, there clearly has to be a special town meeting for leases in excess of 5 years. Wouldn't it be the same thing if somebody has a grant and the condition of that grant is to have a 5-year lease? You come to the Board of Selectmen, and if the Board of Selectmen wants to do it, you have a special town meeting.
Can I ask a question about the ability of the town perhaps to apply for this grant? Is it possible? Because the town is the owner, so the leasee, if they had more than, if they had a 5-year lease, that's one person who could apply for the grant. But could the town apply for this grant? I don't know if anyone knows the answer to
They're
that.
usually matching funds, aren't they, Steve, sometimes?
I think so. That's a good question, and I think that's a feasible approach. So in most cases, the person who's using the land would apply and then show landowner permission. So the lessee would then say, prove that they've got the lease and approval to do the work. Switching it around like that, I think that's a reasonable approach to say the town, the application could come from the town, with the understanding that it's going to go through the business. I can look in for this specific case for Christina, but if that's the case, then the town would be the applicant. And someone might just have to work closely with off-center farm to make sure that goes through appropriately, and that the contacts with the state happen as needed.
Yeah, because that my understanding is it's not as simple as an ordinance, which I think maybe was the understanding that that the Board of Selectmen either had the power itself or could do something by ordinance. But I think what Jerry is saying is the charter, which we cannot do anything to amend. We have to sort of follow the charter there. Certainly in the time frame you're looking at, we can't amend the charter.
Right.
If it were ordinance, we could have gotten it to an ordinance committee, but I don't think it can be done. Jerry, it can't be done by ordinance. We can't do something to the charter by ordinance, right?
You can't have anything that conflicts with the charter by ordinance. Charter
Right.
prevails.
So that's not the way forward. Okay.
Steve, do you happen to know if there is some match required by this, that if the town were to apply for the grant, that if there's a match, that would obligate us to funds that we haven't
Sure.
budgeted. So I don't know if it will work either if that's
Yes.
part of it.
So this specific grant, and I know because we completed this grant on a few occasions at Massaro, this farmland restoration program grant. It generally has a max award of $20,000 and a match of 10%, but that could still come through off center. So if the applicant was the town sort of in partnership, and there are ways that's oftentimes grants do have partners. The funding could come through, in this case the lessee, and through off center, as opposed to the town needing to obligate funds. So I bet there's a way to make sure that works. So that's a good question.
Steve,
Oh.
Like Sheila's idea is a good one, then, that it should be if we agree with that, it should be a partnership between the farm and the town.
Yeah.
Now with this, let's just say everything aligned and the town applied and it was approved, would it be a 5-year?
No, then you wouldn't need it because it's the town is the applicant, the town.
Got it. Okay, we already own it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And if something horrible happened and we needed that land for something, we would still own the land, so it's our decision if we had to, God forbid, take it back or something like that. I hope that never happens, but
Right.
you never know.
And like I said, the specifics of the project that off center is proposing still would need to be approved. So let's say if there were supposed to be something, if they were to build something or put up a fence, they would still seek town's approval for doing the project.
Mhm.
So right now we're at the application stage in which we need the eligibility.
Do you have any knowledge whether this grant will require the construction of buildings, of structures?
Christina is on, so I think she can speak more specifically about her proposal.
But I don't think we need to, because if we answer the other question, the town should be the applicant. But just let me say that is going to happen in any grant, and the Board of Selectmen has to consider whether it wants to encumber town-owned property with structures, no matter how removable they are. That is another question, and whether it's consistent with what the Board of Selectmen wants to do. I'm just
Right.
throwing that out. I don't think we have to discuss that today. Because
Right.
we seem to agree that the town should consider being the applicant if possible.
Sure.
Yeah. And,
That
Jerry,
that would require, I think, more work on your part, Jerry, working with Steve and Chris to take the next steps for that, if the board agrees.
Sure.
This is to do that, or at least begin to explore it. I don't think we're going to have it done, obviously, in time for the January date for Christina.
I think, Beth, what we're just looking for is so she can put the grant in. And then it doesn't mean she got approved or the town got approved. It just means that she's going forward with the grant, trying to get funds. The town, the state has to approve the funds first before you start seeing anything, but you got to get the application in.
Correct, but the question is the town going to get the application in, or is
I
Christina
think
going
we're gonna have to go through the town, it sounds like.
Right.
Order to special.
Right, so that's what I was sort of suggesting, that we have Jerry perhaps look into working with Christina to get that done on behalf of the town, if that's the consensus of the Board of Selectmen.
Go for it.
We haven't, anybody else want to comment on this? So as I understand it, it's the consensus of the board to ask Attorney Weiner to work with Christina to begin to make application on behalf of the town for a grant, state grants from the Agricultural Commission of the state. Is that enough?
Why don't we,
Really a motion, it's a consensus.
why don't we have a motion from Sheila to that effect so that we can put it in the minutes?
Okay, well, consensus goes in there as well, but if you want a motion, that's fine. Sheila, go ahead.
Yeah, just make a motion to investigate the option of the town applying for this grant and the logistics of that, and let us know the outcome.
Okay,
that's my
I'll
motion.
second that. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
Specifically, what are the plans for the Hollands for that, for the use of that money? What are they going to do with that money? What's their objective?
Christina,
I-
you on?
Yeah, if Christina, I saw popped into the chat briefly. I don't know if she's able to become a panelist to
I
answer.
just unmuted her so she can answer the question.
Okay.
Hi, yes, I am here. The grant that I was proposing for this particular project includes no structures. The farmland restoration program through the Connecticut Department of Ag has funds available for clearing invasive species along the borders of the land, since the town does want these leased areas to be kept as open space. Every year, the stone walls that have historically delineated these fields gets crept in on. So I want to remove all of the poison ivy, multiflora rose, and other invasive species that basically creep every year.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? If not, I will call the question.
Well, my question, I did
Yep.
put this in the chat, but Jerry had said that a special meeting was needed if the sale of a property was more than $50,000 or greater, and that the leased land would be considered the same. But I'm wondering, what are these properties? Is it their assessed value? Would the lease be for the assessed value, or is it for the leased value? We lease for $10 a year. So does this require a special meeting if it's a $50 lease to the town? I'm curious if that's at all, I don't know, worth discussing.
Jerry, I think you might be muted. Let me look. Yep.
That's a good question. The charter provision requires 50,000 or 0.15% minimum for a sale or a purchase of property to go to a special town meeting. In other words, the board has the authority to purchase property or sell property if it's less than that threshold. Specifically, the section specifically requires monetary amount in sale or purchases. For leases, however, it's in a different section. And the leases do not have, the lease section does not have any monetary amount. It says a lease more than 1 year shall be considered as a sale and go to a special town meeting consideration. So, and then the other question that you raised, assuming, that's the answer to that. The lease section is different than the sale section. The sale section has a monetary amount. The lease section only requires more than 1 year for it to go to a special town meeting. That's why when we give out the 1-year leases, we don't have to go to a special town meeting, which is why we limit it to 1 year.
Okay. So,
And Jerry, it says special town meeting, but this could also be taken, care of, I assume, at our regular town meeting.
Yeah, at the annual meeting,
Yep.
yes.
okay, so with that, we have a motion and a second, and I'll call the vote. David, I'm going to start at the bottom this time. Mix it up. David Vogel,
Aye.
Sheila McCreven.
Aye.
Yep, sorry. David Lober,
Aye.
Paul Kirikos,
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye, and Joe Crisco.
Aye.
Great. All right, good. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Stay tuned.
Thank you. We'll
Keep
stay
safe out there.
in touch. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for stopping in.
Yep.
Item 4 on the agenda is Pay As You Throw Trash presentation with Kristen Brown of Waste Zero. And I see she's just been let in. There's someone named Chris Nelson. Who's that? Is he?
Yes.
This is Chris. I'm from the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. So I'll be saying some introductory words before Kristen goes.
Great. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. And as Kristen's joining, I'll just share my introductory words before I pass it over. As I mentioned, Chris Nelson from Connecticut DEP. I'm from our Sustainable Materials Management Group, and my group has been tasked with kind of improving recycling in Connecticut, but also taking a look at what's going on with waste in Connecticut. We've been concerned for many years that Connecticut is a state that has kind of had an underlying mission or a goal of being as self-sufficient as possible with the materials that we generate. We're seeing some trends that trouble us a bit. Across the Northeast, we see waste to energy facilities closing. We see landfills in the Northeast closing. Connecticut has long been heavily reliant on waste to energy facilities to handle the waste that we generate. Those waste to energy facilities in Connecticut are getting old. They're breaking down. They're more subject to outages. And I'm sure most of you have heard there's the Mid-Connecticut plant run by Mira in Hartford is scheduled to shut down this summer. It's one of the two largest facilities in Hartford. So we are facing a disposal capacity issue, which will only get worse with time. Because of that, we are trying to encourage programs that divert as much material as possible from disposal. That could be increased recycling. It could be reducing the amount of waste that's generated. It could be diverting material like organic or food waste into other channels, which would be composting or going to an anaerobic digester. We, in the fall of 2020, Commissioner of DEP, working with a number of towns, formed the Connecticut Coalition for Sustainable Materials Management, or CCSMM, because we like acronyms. Woodbridge is one of the 87 towns that's currently a member of and participating in those discussions. And what that is we've come together as a bunch of towns and also regional groups like COGS and regional authorities to explore solutions to help reduce the amount of waste that we have to dispose of in the state. One thing that we're pursuing now to help hopefully achieve that goal is the announcement of a grant program. We were given $5 million by the legislature this year to develop a grant program to offer to towns and regional organizations to adopt programs that can hopefully substantially reduce the amount of waste that's generated in the state. So the main two programs we're looking at are Pay As You Throw, to provide a price incentive for people to reduce the amount of waste that they generate, and also organics diversions, where people are bringing their food scrap, and whether it's a drop off or maybe picked up at their home, diverting that and not putting it in their trash, but having it sent somewhere where it can actually be used and made into a usable product. So we currently have a grant program underway. Many towns have filed an expression of interest. We're currently working with them to kind of go to the next phase and find out what are the details of those towns' proposals. Kristen Brown from Waste Zero is our consultant who will be working with towns to help them put together a plan. And I think with that, Kristen, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, great. I'm going to try to share my screen. I think you're seeing my screen, but I've never done it, so I don't know
Okay.
how to share on WebEx. Can you see this?
Not yet.
Thanks to you.
No,
Oh.
cannot see it.
Okay.
We can see you. There we go. Yep, we got it.
Oh, good. Okay. Wow. All right. Never done this, so this is great. Thank you. I'll be quick. Betsy said just 15 minutes. So basically, I want to give you just a little bit of background on two of the programs that we're looking at. As Chris mentioned, we have the grant is available. It's approximately $5 million. We do have 30 municipalities. Well, we had almost 50, I think, that actually submitted an expression of interest. But 30 of those municipalities have moved to the second round, and Woodbridge was one of those municipalities, so that's great. So what we're looking to do is develop some either pilots or actual full implementations of different programs, one being pay-as-you-throw, unit-based pricing, and the other being some type of food waste diversion program. So just give you a little background. Food waste is a big priority. Food waste is about really over 20% of the waste stream. Food and yard material make up about 35% of the waste stream. It's important for many reasons, but as Chris mentioned, we have a waste crisis. Of course, it's whenever you have a capacity shortage, you always have increased prices. So you all are in a current contract, which is really very, very good. One of the best in the state. You're with some other Bridgeport municipalities. I can tell you that some municipalities around you are paying twice as much to throw away their trash. So as that contract comes to an end, you're going to be looking at significantly higher disposal fees. The disposal fees are really related to the fact that we have limited capacity in the state, and that is not expected to change. Of course, when you think about waste, municipalities don't want to have a new incinerator. They certainly don't want to have a new landfill. It's sort of that not in my backyard syndrome. So it's very, very difficult to site these facilities, not just in New England, but across the entire United States. As Chris mentioned, I'm the consultant for DEP. I've been in waste for over 30 years. And the the number of landfills has continued to shrink. The number of incinerators has also continued to shrink. To give you an idea, about 30 years ago, there were over 6,000 landfills. Today, there are about 1,000. So our population is growing, but our capacity for disposal is shrinking exponentially more quickly. So it's not really just a New England or a Connecticut disposal crisis. It really is a crisis across the country. And so the idea is let's think about our waste stream differently. So in the case of food waste can be diverted. It can go to compost, which helps with replenish nutrients in our soil, but it can also go to anaerobic digestion, which is a way of pulling out energy from that food as it's digested, and also pulling out a digestate, which can be mixed into compost to bring those nutrients back to the soil. So pulling food waste out is a big priority for Connecticut, but also for every other state. Uh, just to give you an idea of where you are today, the average home in the country 30 years ago threw away about 900 pounds per capita. Today, the average person throws away about 740 pounds per capita in Connecticut. So if you think about the past 30 years, you've heard, national campaigns, local campaigns to get people to recycle better. There are bottle bills and other types of extended producer responsibility for mattresses or for electronics. And then there's also been a lot of manufacturing innovation in if you think about your Amazon box, it's getting thinner and thinner every time it comes. You get more of them, but they are getting thinner. You think about a water bottle or even your Pepsi can, those items are all getting thinner. So manufacturers are being innovative with how they use these materials, and that has, led to a decrease in the amount that we do throw away, which is great. But we're not nearly where we could be. So the average home in Connecticut is throwing away 740 pounds. Stonington is throwing away about half that. So Stonington has something called pay as you throw. There are over 550 municipalities north of New York, so including New York, going up to Canada, that have some form of pay as you throw. So Connecticut, as well as every other state in the country, really does see the idea of pay-as-you-throw programs as the single best way to reduce trash. And therefore the single best way to save money for residents, and to allow residents to control their future as the cost of tipping goes up. Uh, when you couple that with some type of food waste collection program or strategy, you find that you can get down to only 225 pounds per capita. So I know I don't want to bore you with a lot of numbers, but you can see just visually that it's significantly less waste. So as our capacity for disposal continues to decrease, the less we can generate, the less it's going to cost us, and the more we're going to be able to handle that. So I'll give you just a couple of the communities that I've worked with in the past. These charts just kind of show you why all of the states do and really internationally look at pay-as-you-throw programs as the best way to reduce trash. The first one is a look in Waterville, Maine. You can see the trash dropped by about 50%. These are monthly, so you can see the month that you begin a pay-as-you-throw program, your trash reduces. This is important, especially with this grant. The idea behind the grant is for communities that might want to try a new program for a year, pilot it, so to speak, like Waterville did, so that they can see the results before they actually jump all the way into it. So again, Waterville was a pilot. They did have a referendum after the pilot, and unanimously people voted to keep the program. So people usually like it once they go going on it. It's just a little different. Another one that I implemented was Dartmouth, Massachusetts. You can see the first year it was actually implemented not on a full fiscal year. So you can see waste dropped, but then it dropped again. But the cool thing about these programs is once they are implemented, they are very sustainable. Your trash stays down once you've started the program. And then I'll just go to the one, Sanford, Maine at the bottom. Is one of my favorite examples, and that is that they implemented a unit-based pricing program or pay-as-you-throw program in 2010. You can see the trash dropped significantly. After a couple of months, they decided to take it out. There was a person in the town who actually won the Maine lottery. He didn't like the program, so he lobbied against it. So this is a very political issue. He lobbied against it, put up road signs. The council decided, okay, we'll get rid of the program. And interestingly, you can see the trash goes back up, not up to the point it was before. But in 2013, when they were looking for other ways to save money, they re-implemented the program. I guess the person who won the lottery had moved away, so moved to the Bahamas. So they implemented again, and you can see the trash went down again. So it really is a great tool for reducing waste and also drawing attention to other programs like food waste programs or textile diversion programs or other programs. So just quickly, the next steps, you all are in the second tier of the grant process. So I, as the technical assistance person for DEP, will be working with staff to look at a couple of different either pilots or permanent implementation pathways. And we'll do that over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll likely come back to everybody for feedback, probably just via email and maybe just personal phone calls so we can get feedback from everyone. And then the grants are due on March 30th. So everybody will have time to say, I like this idea or I don't like this idea, or, we don't want to be one of the first communities to do something like this, but you'll have a little bit of time to think about it. But Betsy just asked me to give you a sort of brief overview of what these programs look like and just a little bit about the next steps coming up over the next month or so. Any questions?
Any questions from any of the board of selectmen?
Oh.
Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much. We're on the road. And you'll be in touch, I guess. You'll be working with staff as soon as the next couple of weeks or so. And you'll keep us posted. Very informative. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Item 5 on the agenda is liaison reports, and figure this out here. How about David Vogel?
Thank you. I would have had a report, but the plane that I was supposed to be on canceled. So I ended up being on a plane when my committee met yesterday. So I don't have a report to give today.
No worries. Okay, Sheila.
Sure, I've got just a couple brief things. So the Woodbridge Board of Ed had met in December on the 20th. As Jonathan Budd mentioned, that was when they unanimously approved their budget request. That was then forwarded over to us for their operating budget. And they're going to be presenting, I think, on the 25th. At the time, it was a 13.5% increase, which is a total of 17.6 million or so, which is a 2.1 million increase, roughly. But my understanding is the Finance Committee did meet yesterday, and they're looking at some potential changes of up to $575,000 off of that, which would bring it down to a 9.9% increase rather than that 13.5. So again, as Jonathan mentioned, that has to go to the full board so that they could weigh in on whether that's what they want to change their request to, and then whatever they decide at their Tuesday meeting. I certainly will take the opportunity, as I did at the December meeting, with my liaison report to them, to stress that a twofold message that the town very strongly supports educational excellence. They're doing a great job, and we want to continue to be able to support that. We just do obviously need to be mindful of taxpayers, and very high increases are going to be very difficult. And I believe I told them at their December meeting, they're um, I think it was 3.25% last year. And obviously, if they come in closer to that, it would be much easier for us. But either way, we're going to be working in partnership with the Board of Ed to make sure that the appropriate funds are getting allocated to support the excellence at Beecher. So that was my message at that meeting. I will deliver that again Tuesday night as they take a look at making changes to that budget. That's the report from liaison to Board of Ed. Coupop did not have a December meeting, and they are scheduled to meet, I believe, on Monday, the 24th of January. So there's really no report from that. So that's me.
Thank you very much. David Lober.
Oh, okay, Inland Wetlands Agency met, the one thing that that's most important from their meeting is there's a subdivision planned on Merritt Avenue. I don't know if you know about this, but 10 and 14 Merritt Avenue is a 3.5 acre parcel, and a developer is planning on putting 14 duplex homes on that parcel. Right now, that parcel has approval for 2 homes. Before the subdivision, those 2 pieces of land had been approved for 2 homes. The problem with this area is about half of it is in the floodplain, and about half of it is in the 100-foot wetlands review area. So Inland Wetlands has weighed in on this. The other problem with this area is that the drainage is going to be by a culvert into a retention basin that will have to be maintained. So there'll have to be a homeowners association to do that. Now, since the Pond Lily Dam was removed, the hydrology of this area has changed, and the map that they're working with is a 2017 floodplain map. So they're getting an independent engineer to come in and reevaluate the flood issues in this area. So that's an ongoing issue. They also talked about laying aside 10% of that property for open space. The Conservation Commission, did anybody know about that development? You know about the development, Beth?
I've heard from a couple of residents, and I encourage them to go to the next Inland Wetlands meeting, as well as when it gets to P&Z.
Okay. The Conservation Commission met. They formally voted to send a memorandum to the Board of Selectmen, unchanged from the final draft, rejecting the Arbor Haven proposal and stating the reasons. 16 letters were read during the public comment session, all in favor of rejecting the proposed development. A trail challenge program was introduced whereby residents could record their use of the various trails, earning points towards a recognition award, such as a badge. All conservation land would be categorized on a website. This would be to get people more familiar with the open space in town and take advantage of it. They talked about budget discussion, and they included $400 for these badges. They also wanted $2,000 for note taker, because notes and minutes have been problematic with that commission, and $200 for trail brushes to clean boots on entering and leaving trails to control jumping worms. You folks know about jumping worms? They're a new invasive species, and apparently they push out the regular worms, and they destroy the soil, which is a big problem. They take all the nutrients out of it, and then they change the quality of the soil to a kind of a dry coffee ground consistency. So they want to put brushes, which are kind of like doormats, where you wipe your boots so you don't take any of the larvae from these jumping worms and spread them around. The commission also discussed the Merritt Avenue project, and they're seeking to set aside 10% of the development for open space. Ideally, they want to connect to the West River Trail. There will also be a site visit planned for 10 a.m. on Saturday, January 22nd, and everybody is invited. Human Services had a special meeting to discuss the budget. That's on December 20th. Their operating budget, net of donations and grants of more than $361,000 will come in at $11,392 less than last year's budget. So they're being very fiscally conservative. They're raising fees on meals and events so that they can cover their higher costs. At the regular meeting, they discussed COVID tests that would be distributed by drive-through and to the homes of the most vulnerable. They're still looking for a driver for the center. They also need a new sedan to replace the aged and repair-prone police cruiser that they were given. The reason that they need a sedan in addition to their van is they need to be able to go on the Merritt Parkway to take people to doctor's appointments. So they put in $35,000 on the budget. Youth Services has been very busy. They had a Toy for Tots program, which received 40 toys for distribution by team members. They got 2 gift certificates for $100. We have a special thanks for the fire department and Dwight Rowland, for distributing toys. To Artie Dixon and his friends from Orange for donating 2 large bags of toys to the New Reach Shelter for homeless women and children, and to the Amity students for assembling 165 We Care kits, and also to Samantha Woodruff for running a paint party. Woodbridge Youth Services now has a Facebook page, and they're also having an internet safety program for middle school children planned January 31st. They are also awaiting plans for the renovations of the center building, and these will be presented by David Stein of Silver Petroselli when they're ready. And they also have COVID vaccines available. You can check with Human Services for places and times. And that's my liaison report.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Paul Kyriakos.
The Woodbridge Board of Education, Amity Board of Education met Monday evening. I was not able to attend. I was a bit under the weather, so I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. And Joe Crisco.
Thank you. There was a Board of Fire Commission special meeting on Monday, July 3rd. I'm sorry, July, I'll be all right. January 3rd via Zoom. The chairman stated that there was an update on the dispatch issue, but it would only be discussed in executive session. So we have to wait to see what the results are of that. There was an update on the COVID-19 by the chief. As we are aware, COVID cases are on the rise. The firehouse is on a lockdown. Also, he stated 4 firefighters were out with COVID, 2 are back. And there's 1 more waiting for test results. While the CDC changed quarantine time from 10 to 5 days, the firehouse will retain the 10-day quarantine. As the chief also stated that they're continuing new COVID residents on the list. He also stated that the town was to receive over 1,000 test kits, but received only 600. And they are continually deconing the firehouse and trucks more frequently to kill any potential germs. So in regards to the current financial statements, their budget, some items definitely will go over because of the COVID medical cleaning issues. They discussed the operating budget, and the Board of Fire Commission approved the operating budget as presented. Then the fire chief's report. He discussed Engine 9, which was approved by the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. and they're moving forward to order the trucks. There also was a discussion on a complaint about the siren, and it was explained why the siren is definitely needed and there could be no modifications of it. The fire marshal report, Mr. Carpucci has discussed his report. He had 62 appointments and was providing, great town service. Also, Chair Karen Kravitz read 3 letters. They were from the Orange Volunteer Fire Department, thanking the Woodbridge Volunteer Fire Department for their assistance to cover their town during a smoke investigation on November 23rd. So they were greatly appreciative of good neighborship from the town of Woodbridge. On December 20th, there was a regular meeting of the police commission. Basically, there was action taken during executive session to extend a conditional offer of employment to Stefano Moriello for the position of certified police officer. There was a report on motor vehicles. And it was mentioned how there has been a substantial increase on Litchfield Turnpike. Also, the department participated in the state of Connecticut Click It or Ticket campaign for the 2 separate days. The report of the fire chief, the police chief. There's a funding opportunity through the Violent Crime Prevention Grant, and the commission decided to grant approval to approve applying for the grant and receiving it. There was a Click It or Ticket, as I mentioned, DOT grant update. The board approved participation in the grant. The Stuff a Cruiser event update was extremely successful. This was where a holiday toy donation event took place on December 4th. Also, the Shop with a Cop event was very successful. And the union provided dinner for children, and the Reach Foundation provided gift cards. In regards to personnel matters, the chief stated that there has been some extended absences, based, and they're kind of short on certain days. Sergeant's promotional testing was approved, and there were letters of accommodation issued to several officers, and that's my report. Any questions?
Thank you, Joe. Okay, have I forgotten anybody? I don't think so. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item. It's a little bit after 6:08. Betsy, is there anyone here for public comments? I have several that I have to read that were asked to be read into the record, so.
Yes, we've got Chuck Pine here. Chuck, I've just unmuted you. Are you here to make a public comment?
Nope, just taking it all in. Thank you.
Thanks.
Did he say yes? I'm sorry.
No, he said no, thank you.
Okay. Okie doke. So I will begin. Dear Board of Selectmen, this is from Marie Grafton. We want to thank you for having fought alongside us in the fight against the cell tower at 118 Newton. As you know, we lost by 1 vote, but obtained votes from the current and former chairman, who recognized that there were a number of unanswered questions in the case and that more work needs to be done by Verizon to fully explore the proposed alternate site. This is not insignificant, as they are very senior and experienced members. It also confirms that we have felt what we have felt all along, that there are many holes in the case that need to be addressed. We ask that you continue fighting with us and file an appeal. Many Connecticut municipalities have done so in similar cases, and it's important in the eyes of the court to see this continued support/unified front when they evaluate this case. Together, we must continue to stand as one. Next one is from Gregory Karwowski. Dear First Selectman Heller, These are all from yesterday, by the way. Thank you for issuing a strong letter to the Siting Council expressing BOS disapproval and opposition to the construction of a cell tower on 118 Newton Road property, and for allowing WNNET to conduct an independent test on town property identified to the CSC as an alternate site. We all feel we presented a very good case to the CSC for reconsideration, but have not been treated fairly in the process. CSC final vote was split 4-2, with the two most senior members supporting our position. Our community is now faced with the appeal of this unjust decision to the Superior Court. As you contemplate whether to support our community in the appeal process, please consider that other towns are doing the same. In September 2021, the residents of the town of Milford have lost the CSC process documented in docket 500. They, like us, do not want a cell tower in the residential neighborhood. The city of Milford filed an appeal with the Superior Court on behalf of their community. For your reference, the first page of that filing and the link to the court is attached. We ask you to consider filing a lawsuit against the CSA decision in support of our community. Next is from Lillian Toff. I'm extremely upset residents. I am an extremely upset resident due the decision the Siting Council has made regarding the cell tower on Soundview Drive. I am against the cell tower ruining my beautiful neighborhood. I understand that alternate sites were never truly considered either. The situation cannot happen in this location. I would strongly urge that the town of Woodbridge help this situation and fight for a relocation of the cell tower. Thank you. Penelope Sampoli on 108 Newton Road. Mrs. Shaw, she wrote to Jerry. I write to urge the Board of Selectmen to discuss the advisability of joining the neighborhood group, quote, no cell tower, please, in a formal legal appeal of the Connecticut Siting Council's recent ruling, which would allow Verizon to build a cell tower at 118 Newton Road. The ruling was no means unanimous. Our neighborhood group lost our case by a single vote. It is my belief that the town of Woodbridge must consider to insist that considerations important to local communities, such as scenic beauty, protection of local wildlife, environmental soundness, and preservation of local property values, and by extension, the local property tax base, are given precedence over the purely commercial interests of private entities, and that the public interest defined broadly is upheld in the state of Connecticut. Thank you in advance for including the recent CSC ruling in tonight's agenda. Next one is from Joe and Gloria Porco, Porco. I'm sorry, I don't have an address, but with so many other viable locations for this tower, we in Woodbridge lose resale value of our homes just because one resident wants to monetize his land ownership? Please explain what other options are available for Woodbridge residents to fight this decision since we've lost the case so far. Why hasn't the town of Woodbridge been more involved in protecting its residents, considering we pay extremely high taxes and receive very little services for the said taxes? Exactly when, what date is the tower expected to be erected and operational? Signed, Joe and Gloria Porco. And the last one that came in today, just under the gun at 2:34 this afternoon. Hello, I'm writing this email to express my strong opposition to a cellular tower at Newton Road and to support Kyoko's proposal at today's Woodbridge Township meeting. Thank you very much for your attention. Regards, Mrs. Dong at 11 Penny Lane. And that is so far all that was submitted as of 3 o'clock today. And with that, I will move on to number 7, Community Connectivity Grant, Sidewalk Project, Tony Genovese and Miss Liagla.
Thank you very much. The town of Woodbridge last year applied for a community connectivity grant, which included sidewalk and bike improvements for the town center area. And the state has indicated that they have another round this month and are going to consider applications from last year, of which ours is one. So we're hopeful that we may have an opportunity here for award of the grant. And so I'll let Betsy talk a little bit about what the improvements were.
Sure. So when we first applied for this project, the bulk of the funding would have gone towards a new sidewalk that would have been on the western side of Newton Road to connect the high school to the library. And then it would have also updated the existing asphalt sidewalk at the library and it made it more of a traditional concrete sidewalk. And instead of having a kind of arched appearance closer to the building, it would have been a more of an L shape closer to the road. So better for people who are walking close to the road. It would also have included decorative lighting along the new sidewalk on the library portion, of the land, which would match the decorative lighting on the remainder of the sidewalk in the town center campus. And the lighting not only would look nice and enhance the appearance, but it's really important because there's a lot of evening programs in the area and there's no lighting on that side of the library. So that would be an additional safety improvement. When we originally applied, we also applied for signage to create the town's bike route, some other bike amenities, and several of the what are they called, solar powered speed awareness signs. And we were able to accomplish some of those things through the combination of a crowdfunding campaign and a matching grant from Sustainable CT. So this coming grant would include the sidewalk that I already mentioned and another significantly smaller sidewalk at Town Hall. And right now, let me just share my screen with you. So can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so right now, if you could see my cursor over here on the left-hand side, there is a new-ish sidewalk that connects the parking lot at the side of Town Hall up to Meeting House Lane. And then you can see over here, there's the walkway that goes into Town Hall. However, the crosswalk does not connect to the existing sidewalk that we have. So the thought is to create a small sidewalk to connect the existing sidewalk over to the crosswalk. It's a bit of a safety issue right now. The sidewalk brings people up to the road, but the crosswalk's not there. So either they need to go into the road to get to Town Hall or into the road without a crosswalk to get over to the other sidewalk on the town campus, or walk on what could occasionally be uneven ground to get into Town Hall. And we've mentioned this idea to the folks at the state, and they agree that it is a safety issue and that they believe that it is in line with the objectives of the grant. So that would be the main difference in the application this year versus our previous application.
I also want to comment that there's been a continued interest for many years about having a sidewalk from Amity High School to the center of town. I know we've discussed it in many budget applications, and so this is an opportunity to put that in. To if any of you've been around, when school gets out, a lot of students walk, meander through the center. So this would be, I think, a help.
Yeah, that's really a safety issue as well. They're all in the road and the buses are leaving and it's
When there's a lot of snow, there's nowhere for the
there's
students
nowhere,
to
they're in the
walk because they have to walk out into the road where there's like people
right. And
driving.
a lot of them are either going to the library, they're walking down to
Right.
the center fields to do
Right.
or baseball, softball in the spring.
Right.
And kids everywhere, and there's really they're in the road. And Newton is not exactly there's no, it's kids all over and parents and everything. It's busy in the afternoons. It's really, it is a hazard.
And the
It could
value
also
of-
be of help. I'm sorry, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the value. Betsy, the value of the grant is what, 600,000, we're hoping?
That the maximum award is 600,000.
Right.
So that sidewalk would also be beneficial to non-students because as we do more community events in the center of town, and once we get back to holding in-person events, we often, I shouldn't say often, we occasionally need to use the high school as overflow parking. And so for folks attending something in the town center, this would provide a safe way for them to get from one spot to another.
Well, that's great news. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Thank you. Thanks for all your efforts on that. We just keep plugging along and you never know. Once in a while, something good happens. Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Betsy or Tony on that? Okay. Good segue into, I think we're up to Administrative Officer Director Finance Report, Mr. Genovese. Hi, Tony.
Hi there. Thank you. The monthly report for half of the fiscal year is a healthy year-end budget surplus of $323,000. So that would leave, because we allocate $400,000 from our fund balance at the end of the year, this would leave a slight decrease in our fund balance of $76,000. So that would leave us at 12.88%. of our annual expenditures, which is which would be a healthy sort of fund balance for us. Um, as you indicated from heard from Dr. Budd, the Woodbridge Board of Education is hopeful that they will close the gap on their deficit and their operating budget. So that's good news. The town has some surpluses in revenues due to a FEMA award, as we discussed previously, of $142,000, mostly related to Storm Isaias. We've also received $15,000 in pilot funds and $5,000 shortfall in citation grant funds, which will offset that slight. Our investment income continues to experience a deficit of $50,000 by the end of the year, and low short-term rates continue. The charge for services is interesting. The department charges, and this is the big change from previous month. The department charges are projected to have a surplus of $170,000. And there's a $20,000 surplus in transfer station fees. We're keeping an eye on that. The bulky waste fee goes into play on February 1st. That could actually increase somewhat significantly. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll report that next month as we, probably the month after, as we continue, as that starts, and to see where that takes us. There's a surplus of $155,000 in building permit fees and a shortfall of $5,000 in library fines. The reason for the big surplus in building permit revenue is that the town received $100,000, as you are all aware from our last meeting, in building permit revenue from the Regional Water Authority for improvements at the West River plant. So that was not something we had budgeted for, nor did we know that was going to happen this year. And so that's a surplus for us for the fiscal year. On expenditures, the library is projected to generate $36,000, primarily due to savings in wages and $15,000 surplus in benefits. I will note that as COVID continues, we may see more surpluses in some of our service accounts due to canceled programming. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we will let you know in next month as that plays out. And finally, so far, I shouldn't say anything about this, but so far we've been pretty good with the weather, and that's, there's a few areas where we have some exposure each year that we keep an eye on, and the reason why we are very concerned about our contingency, and one is snow removal, so we will keep an eye on that, and hopefully we don't have to use a lot of funds for that. So that's my report. Any questions?
Wonderful.
Any line items? No.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on to funding requests. The first one in our packet is, let's see, request for funding number 2122-05 in the amount of $10,000. Before we discuss it, I'll make a motion that we approve it. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. And with that, Tony, feel free to explain. It sounds like it's taking money out of contingency to help with the cleaning of COVID.
Right. So in the budget process, the firehouse has an extra custodian hours for cleaning, some additional time, as it was indicated in actually Joe's liaison report, and so when the budget, we had only budgeted for 6 months, thinking that maybe we would see a let up of the COVID, and if not, we would fund it at that time. Clearly, that has not happened yet. So this is to continue that funding through June 30th.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, it's $10,000 for increased cleaning fees. How many hours of cleaning is that?
It's he does 15 to less than 20, say 15 hours a week to 18 hours a week. Sometimes it depends on the week, but it's less than 20, more than 10. So he supplements the existing cleaning.
And what do we pay the individual who cleans?
It's 18 and change an hour. I don't remember. I don't know exactly, but it's less than $20 an hour.
So it's roughly $400 a week.
I could do the math if you would like.
Yeah.
In the memo from the chief, it was not just cleaning, but disinfecting related to the the recent, I guess, uptick in COVID cases there. Joe, you said there were four
Yes.
so far, yeah.
Yeah, it's about 19 hours a week.
So 10,000 represents 19 hours a week?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okey-doke. So hearing no other comments or questions, I will call the vote. Joe Crisco,
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye. Paul Kuriakose,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin,
Aye.
and David Vogel.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is under funding requests this is the thing that Dr. Bud spoke about. Let's see, I'll move acceptance of line item transfer number 2122-06 in the amount of $664,000 transfer revenue received from the Stratford Board of Ed for student-specific costs at Beach and Road School, and it's moving from our revenue.
This is from the revenue line where we'll recognize the revenue that Dr. Bud mentioned into the Board of Education budget.
Right. Anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Sheila.
I'm going to second for you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Start at the bottom this time. David Vogel.
Aye.
Thank you. Sheila.
Aye.
McCrevin. David Lober.
Aye.
Paul Kuriakose.
Aye.
Beth Heller. Aye. And Joe Crisco.
Aye.
Thank you. It's the bottom of the list, not the bottom of the pile. That sounds terrible. Thank you. Okie doke. That takes care of those two items. Oh, Tony, do you have any other?
I do not.
Okie dokie. Wow, we're moving along. Item 9 on the agenda is the strategic plan, a discussion with Mr. Genovese and Ms. Yagla. Betsy and Tony, you're up.
So at our last meeting, we discussed this topic, and you had asked us to come up with another example, or if we could, or of a strategic plan that we can consider. So Betsy has some examples to share of different strategic plans that the board can consider, and the how each one benefits. The first is from Enfield.
Yeah, so at our last meeting, I shared 3 samples and I found one additional sample to share with all of you. The 2 that I find to be most useful are Enfield and Tolland. And Enfield has 5 focal areas. They've got these big buckets. As you can see, one is economic development, education, infrastructure and facilities, public safety, and quality of life. And under each of their big bucket items, they have a few initiatives. So for example, under quality of life, they're looking to create a community center, add bike and pedestrian paths, expand their greenway, do riverfront recapture, and focus on concerts and events. So my only critique of this plan is that it doesn't specify which department or commission would be in charge of each of these objects. But I do like what they've done in terms of being much more specific about what they're looking for. They even have a mission statement for each of these, or I guess it's rather a goal that outlines each of these buckets that ties to all of the initiatives that they've outlined to achieve each of those goals. Tolland, on the other hand, and this is part of Tolland's budget book. Tony mentioned last month that this is part of the new online budgeting book. So Tolland has outlined 6 goals, and this is probably difficult to see on the screen, but at the top here, they've created a chart and it shows you which department or commission is in charge of each goal. And it also shows you which commission or department could be affected by the work ongoing here. They are, however, significantly less specific than Enfield is. So I like elements of both of these plans. And the other thing I've done, well, first of all, does anyone have any questions about either of these or some of the others that I've shared?
What's
Betsy,
the yeah, what's the population of Enfield?
I'm not sure. Let me look that up real quickly.
Pelham's probably closer to the size of Woodbridge than Enfield. Enfield is.
I'd be interested what their population is and what their budget is, because, like compare, their assets versus ours.
So Enfield is a population of 44,000 people, and Tolland is a population of 15,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've looked at these around the country, and they're done by both large and small communities, and they just
And
take
some are
different
done.
forms. Yeah.
Yeah, some are done in-house, and some are much more complicated and
Done
probably done
professional.
with consulting firms.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had a question kind of about timeline, because this is reminding me, the one that you have on screen right now, Betsy, reminds me a little bit of what's in the back of the Plan of Conservation and Development. So
Mhm.
in terms of timing, that's not due to start a renewal process. So for a couple of years, right? So perhaps it's the case that this sort of briefer planning document is begun and completed before the Plan of Conservation Development. Well, what is your sense of timing for this?
So Tolland, for example, I anticipate this will be going in each of their budgets annually and would help them when it comes to their budgeting process. I assume that's the concept, Tony.
Yeah, and then this particular one, it looks like there's more of a 2-year plan. But it could be a 2-year plan or a 1-year plan, or you can. What a lot of towns do is put together a framework or a structure of a plan, and then just sort of tweak it as each year as you go through to if certain goals are no longer a priority, or if you want to strengthen others. It's really creating the first document. It's probably the thing that takes the most time.
Right, and I can imagine that this would be very helpful at the very beginning of the budget process to
Correct.
sort of
That's the
communicate
idea.
out.
That's the
If
goal.
your expenditure lines up with this goal, good. If it doesn't, you're kind of outside the parameters of what the Board of Selectmen talked about. And then I guess my other question was, we have that 2030 committee, and I'm never real clear about what their input is, but would they work with you potentially as well as the Board of Selectmen working on this document? Or how do you see the input from that longer range group?
So they're really going to be focused on growing the grand list. So their work may be one of your goals,
Right.
or
There'll be a
initiatives. as
section.
part
We're
of
going to
this.
spend it. They'll grow the grand list, and we'll figure out how we're expending it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's sort of my kind of understanding is this sort of bridges, and there's a place for this planning wise that's not already being filled, and this would probably be very helpful for the Board of Selectmen.
And
It looks
there are some towns that have that structure it different ways in terms of having subcommittees or
Mm.
planning committees or strategic planning committee. There's different ways to structure it so that the board can accomplish this without having to actually review it and do it at every meeting. That's one thing you can consider, as opposed to, and again, having somebody report to you, or you can discuss it amongst yourselves at the meeting.
So I also had a list of sample goals just to kind of get you all thinking. I'm not sure if anyone has any other ideas that we could add to the list. People could mention them now or send me an email throughout the month. My suggestions to start the conversation were to resolve the country club's future use, ensure financial stability, continue and build on community events, invest in infrastructure, ensure equity in town operations, promote affordable starter and senior housing options, and to focus on sustainability. So a lot of the other plans that I've seen from other towns tend to have something about economic development and or financial stability in their events or
Community events
quality
is
of
good, yeah.
life,
Yeah.
infrastructure, and then the others all kind of seem to be more focused on the specific issues that each town is facing. But those seem to be commonalities that I found through many different plans.
Anybody have any other questions for Betsy or Tony, or comments? I would like to comment that I really applaud you guys in the middle of COVID to have something positive and something wonderful to think about. It's not always easy right now, it's so depressing. We just think we're getting out of it, and then down we go again. So anyway, really thank you guys. I know you've really devoted a lot of time to this and will continue to do this for us. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and next on the agenda is item 10. Again, Betsy and Tony, related to just an update on the ARPA.
Yes, I have an update on the ARPA. I guess the biggest update.
For those in the audience, it's the American Rescue Plan Act funding. Right. Sorry.
And the town has received half of $2.6 million, and will receive the other half this June. So the town has a total of $2.6 million in ARPA funding. And we've discussed some other previously some uses, which includes town center beautification improvements, center building HVAC, outdoor classroom space, and improvements to the Grove area or some of the subsets of that. We've discussed about business district marketing and events, playground improvements, and some other nonprofit supportive nonprofits. We were also discussed possibly some enhanced use by the government TV group to help get more programming out in the COVID era. And I guess the biggest improvement or the biggest update that I can share with you since our last meeting is that the Treasury has put out the final rule. And I believe that was hopefully sent to you. If not, it will be. And it has not only the final rule, which I think is 400 pages, but a summary of the final rule, which is much more helpful. And the one item in there I want to bring to your attention is that the Treasury seems to be providing a lot more flexibility on the revenue option, which is replacing lost revenue. And so we're looking into that, and it does appear that we may have a lot more flexibility there. The concept is that the town lost revenue due to the pandemic, and as a result, we would reimburse ourselves for that revenue. Once you reimburse yourselves for that revenue, you then can use that for what a allowable government expense. And the term they used was an expenditure that would normally be incurred by a local government. So you can't use it for something that you would not normally spend money on. But so we're trying to get more clarity on that. But it looks like we may have more flexibility there. And there's an option for taking a standard amount as opposed to doing all kinds of calculations. So they seem to have made it more streamlined as well. So once we have more information on that, we can provide that for you. And we're hopefully pretty soon, now that the final rule is out, we look through that at one of your next meetings, we can start to take some steps towards coming up with some projects. And the one thing that we have to consider and that we should think about is in what way we would involve the public in a decision-making process here. There are different ways that different communities have done that, but I think that's an integral part of this process. So,
Tony, I received those final rules this afternoon from Ellen Graham. I think I sent them to you, and I can have Jerry. That's Senator Blumenthal's office.
Betsy, did you send those out previously? Did we send?
I thought I did. If I didn't, I intended to.
You received them, Dave?
Yeah, we received them.
Oh, good.
You did, okay, because I've got a new update from Ellen Graham from Senator Blumenthal's office. I don't know if there's
it's the same. It's the final rule. It's
okay, so it's not anything different. Okay, good. I didn't have a chance because it came at like 4 o'clock this afternoon. Okay, so I won't send that out then.
So that's good news. So we have a lot more clarity and flexibility, and so I think we're now prepared to move forward on. Yeah.
Good. Because in the beginning it looked like, boy, we were in big trouble. We were gonna have to figure out how to do this,
And just so to remember, we have till 2024 is to encumber the funds,
right,
and then 2026 to spend them.
right. But they will definitely, we won't lose them, right? They're definitely, the second is promised.
The second portion should be coming in this June. So far,
Okay,
that's what we've
we
been
hope-
told, so.
Hopefully.
Tony, quick question on timing, Tony. So that's the latest date we can spend it. What is the soonest date we could spend it?
You can spend it tomorrow. But not necessarily. You have to follow your own local purchasing rules. So, and your own local funding rules. So depending on what that is, we would have to follow our own local rules in order to enact that. But other than that, there is no time with which you can begin spending. We can spend it now. We were
Now that we
sort
have
of
final rules, we can be confident
right,
that we're
correct. We were waiting for the final rule to come out so that we had more confidence in exactly what we can spend it on and how we can spend it and what restrictions were that existed. Because
So
until now, it
possibly
was kind
this
of vague.
fiscal year? Yeah.
Yeah.
If possibly this fiscal year, if we
Sure.
come up
Yep.
with the mechanism to allocate and approve, we could start.
You
Okay.
could certainly do that. And my suggestion is you come up with priorities and you have, you list them by priority so that, you make sure you have enough funding to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Again, thank you for all your work on this.
Okay.
Thank you. Okey doke. Anybody else? No. Okay, that's good. Oh boy, Assistant Administrative Officer's report. Betsy, you're just rocking and rolling here.
He's literally rolling.
Yeah, I know.
I'm here. Sorry.
I thought it was perhaps my screen. I saw a gray circle again. That thing that started up last month in the middle of the Board of Select. I hope it's gone already. I'm not touching anything. Okay,
All
Betsy,
right.
sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry about that internet hiccup. So I'll be very brief. I've been working with the community council, and they are planning an Earth Day celebration for Saturday, April 23rd. And I hope to come to you next month with a request to use the green or the library lawn for that event, and we'll have more details for you at that time. They are also planning tentatively planning a bike event in May to bring awareness to and celebrate the town's new bike route. It would be a community bike ride along the route, and it would include some bicycling safety information. I've also been working with the 2030 task force, and they are waiting on a proposal from a consultant to do a planning study of the business district. And this would coincide with a sidewalk and bike study of the same area. And that study is funded through a DOT grant. So we're working on having these two projects go forward in tandem. And we're very hopeful that these two projects together will set us up to take advantage of the anticipated funding from the federal infrastructure funding. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Okey doke. Let's see. Next item on the agenda is acknowledge receipt of the town clerk's report. You have in your packet the monthly statement and the monthly report and also the year-to-date report. I will make a motion that we approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. Any comments or questions on these? Hearing none. Okay, Joe Crisco,
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye. Paul Kurikos.
Aye.
Thank you, David Lober.
Aye.
Thank you, Sheila McCrevin
Hi.
and David Vogel.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have in your packet the minutes of the regular Board of Selectmen regular meeting of December, I think it's 8th, 2021. I will motion approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anyone have any comments, edits, questions, revisions? Hearing none. David Vogel,
Aye.
Sheila McCrevin,
Hi.
David Lober, sorry.
Aye.
Combined two humans there. Paul Kurikos.
Aye.
Thank you, Beth Heller. Aye, and Joe Crisco.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay. And we come to the appointment, item 14 of Inland Wetlands Agency to June 30th, 2025. There are two, let's see what we got. We have some resumes in our package. I guess I'll turn to Sheila. Do you have a nomination for this position? This is to fill someone who resigned, I believe.
Barry Josephs. And we'd like to nominate Stephen Sasenski. He's currently serving as an alternate member on this board, and his resume in the packet demonstrates his talent and dedication to this cause.
So he's already on this board. He's an alternate. That's what you
Yeah.
just, okay, thank you. I missed that I didn't have a chance to read it. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Joe. And are there any other nominations? Go ahead, David.
Yes, I would like to nominate Nick Zito for this position. His resume was circulated by Jerry in an earlier email. It's left off of the agenda. But Nick, in addition to being a forester for the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority, as a professional forester, has a Bachelor of Science in Natural Resource Management. So he is a professional in this field. He is also has his wetlands delineation certification among the many certifications that he has as a forester. And all of his work would be particularly applicable to this area. I note that the other candidate is a lawyer and would have a great deal of legal knowledge about it, but Nick's advantage is that he works in the field in the specific area of as a forester. And furthermore, I note that Stephen Sasenski is also already on this commission as an alternate, having been put there as a Democrat on the alternate. And while he did switch his party affiliation to unaffiliated about a week before we last appointed these commissions, Barry Joseph was the only non-Democrat on the commission. So with Mr. Sasenski being able to continue on as the alternate, I think that the addition of Nick Zito as an actual voting member of the commission, giving the non-Democrats at least one vote on the commission, would be very appropriate for our body to take that action and decide. Otherwise, I fear that we are completely neglecting to represent the 48% of the voting public who voted for the Republican side of our group in our last election by essentially appointing 100% Democrats to this commission. Mr. Sasenski, while being unaffiliated now, was on the commission as an alternate representing the Democratic Party.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I will.
Sheila, do you think we could vote on Mr. Zito first?
I think my motion is ahead of yours, David.
We were recognized first, but so far every motion that we've had for commissions, you have nominated and yours have been voted on first. I just asked the chair if we could have my nomination voted on first.
Do we have to vote to do that?
Well, I think we've already committed to the order that we're doing it for this. So
Okay,
consider in the future before we get to the actual nominations, perhaps.
sure. Okay.
I don't think the order of nomination commits us to an order of voting. I think the order of voting is the discretion of the chair.
Okay, well, I will keep it the way we've done it. And with that, I will first call for a vote on Stephen Sasenski. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Raising your hands.
Aye.
Okay, and
Aye.
opposed.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, and the position is filled. So this will create an alternate position opening. Is that correct? Stephen will resign as alternate, so there will be an opening. which
Yes, you
we'll
can't serve in both seats.
hopefully be able to bring up next one. I'm sorry? Sheila, I'm sorry, I've got circles going again.
I just said he can't serve in both seats, so yes, he's.
Yeah, okay,
could
all
resign.
right, so that automatically opens up, okay. Thank you very much.
Incredible.
Moving,
Incredible.
I'd like to make a motion, Beth. that we nominate Nick Zito for the open alternate position.
It's not open yet. Next month. We'll take that open. It's not on the agenda for this month. Item, on the agenda is the town council's report. Jerry?
Excuse me, can we put it on the agenda for next month?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no report. I just, the items that are in executive session that I think you can move into now so we can look at pending litigation as well as real estate matters.
Okay. So my question to you is, Jerry, should I read all of these executive sessions, what they are pursuant to statutes, or?
Yes, I think you should read them all and invite whoever needs to be into these sessions. I just want to state that Mary Ann Dubuque, who is the town special counsel for zoning and involved with the modifications and amendments to the zoning regulations recently, is on and will be relevant for the first two items for executive session A and B. And she is on, but Betsy, she can't. She doesn't get a screen. Can you let her in, or is she?
Yes, I was gonna wait until Beth did it, but I can do it right now.
Okay.
I have a question. Is anybody else having trouble hearing Jerry? Because he's very muffled on my computer.
Let me get closer. Maybe is that any better, David?
That's better. Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry. So Mary Ann.
I had so many problems last month. I just thought it was my computer. Thank you. Okay. So with that, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 1-200 CD, discussion of Arbor Haven proposal to purchase the former Country Club of Woodbridge property. Connecticut General Statute 1-200 C6D, discussion of offer from Woodbridge Land Trust / Woodbridge Park Association for conservation easement at former Country Club of Woodbridge. Connecticut General Statute 1-200 6D, again, discussion of offer from Peter Electronica to purchase 31 Enoch Drive. Item D, Connecticut General Statute 1-200 6B, is in boy, 210B4, strategy and negotiations regarding cell tower siting council decision at 118 Newton Road pending litigation. And the last one, Connecticut General Statute 1-200 6C, security devices regarding dispatch issues and an update from Selectman Paul Kurikos. And I will invite into executive session Attorney Weiner, Tony Genovese, and Mary Ann Dubuque.
And Mary Ann will only be in executive session for items A and B, and then she will leave.
Thank you. So would anyone like to make that? I've made the motion. Would anyone like to make it? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you so much. And all in favor? Joe Crisco?
Aye.
Beth Heller, aye. Paul Kurikos?
Aye.
Thank you. David Lober?
Aye.
Thank you. Sheila McCrevin?
Aye.
Thank you. And David Vogel?
Aye.
Thank you. And with that, we will ask our media specialist to turn off, and there will be perhaps action as appropriate following executive session if you'd like to come back, Pua. And I guess Betsy will turn off as well, and we'll reach out again when we're ready to go. So we'll just take a moment to see the two of you sign out.